addressed how the water was gonna, the drainage was gonna be.
So I always go and find Cheyenne.
Well, I get that.
So this is all that.
But the thing is, they got lots across the street.
And then this
He put it up to $9,000.
I said, you can tell you
It's
ain't
like,
done nothing
how's
today.
it working? Oh, he
I
bought
said,
it.
we can tell you ain't done nothing today.
It's all back over your stuff. The problem is though, if somebody buys those and tries to build, all that space,
Your guys come by the other
because
day.
it's good.
I was,
And that's
I was,
what that
Lee, I
really
was with
comes
Lee
all
walking the
on
bus
my
with my
property
tractor.
and into my
He said,
neighbor's.
like, oh, your guys come by. Man, I bet they're sitting on there. Them safety issues.
But the engineers weren't addressing it. Because if they addressed it, I wouldn't be having this. I know. So, and you know, when I first heard from my mother-in-law, you know, when she was alive and had this property, she complained to the city all the time. All the time. And nothing. And it's like, no, enough. I mean, we live there now. Church pew.
I feel the exact same way. I was just walking up like, please.
Wherever you wanna move.
Hold on.
Thanks, folks, for showing up. I appreciate the effort they're crawling upstairs.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
At least it's a little cooler in here anyway.
I heard there's been some remodeling at the community center.
Yeah.
Somebody remodeled it for us. Take it upon their own hands and take care of that. We'll be back there next month.
The building,
Hopefully that gets
everything's
resolved.
rooted.
That's unfortunate.
They'll have a TV back there, everything like that, I hope.
So I heard a rumor that it was kids.
Do what?
That they thought it was kids.
Well, I would guess that's. Yeah, that is.
All right, everyone, Dorothy's on, so we can hear you nice and loud.
Here's
Hi,
where the-
Dorothy.
I've been trying to find them in Belton, so they're right here. That's all. Hey. We got Leonard,
I'm so glad I'm able to do this.
We're glad too.
You know?
Stephen's not here and Pat is running late, FYI.
Oh, got it. Sorry, you can't hear us.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
Thanks for
me?
keeping the good chairs
I
for
can
me.
hear you.
Folks, just for your general information, tonight is strictly a workshop. We will not be voting on anything tonight. So it's strictly a discussion area. So, I'll open the area, I'll open up for citizens' comments here in a few moments. If anybody has any comments, but just to give you just some information, it's all gonna be discussion tonight. So, the thing will be voted on, if it proceeds, will be probably in August 13th.
So I should mute it now, right?
You hear me?
Hey, Mark.
Just give me just 1 second.
There's a shadow over me.
Is it me?
Hey, can you mute your phone and you will be able to hear everybody through
Martha.
I got that too. And I wrote on it and I did a bunch of research about it.
Same one you got last night.
Hey, how is it okay?
Yeah, without the cat.
So here's what I did. I just calculated the rates and what it would be. And these gallons, I just did with, I did that for 15, so. And I pulled out my bill because I didn't know how much was wasting. And then there was, I figured, well, about 22.
Okay, so you can hear me on the phone, and then we can hear you on the.
And I also had how many gallons they're using a month.
Can you say something? Oh, don't mute yourself on the computer, mute yourself on the phone. Yeah, unmute on the computer, and then mute.
You're mute. And then mute my phone.
And now we can hear you.
And now you can hear
Okay.
us, correct? On the phone?
Hang on, takes it.
She'd be here.
Susanna,
You can hear us on the phone?
I don't know why my dispatch, what's going on with these guys?
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you talk now?
Yes.
Take the company one back there.
Yeah.
You know, the rule is if you're sitting in the firehouse chair and call drops, you go. So, take it easy. Get on it.
I drive it. I'd be back.
Well, we can use that. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Which people?
Right here. You want me to do it? Well,
You can just put it in front of you, she'll hear it.
They said Lawrence Lee was going to drainage, stormwater drainage. Keep going fish around. Find out what. You know. See how far you go.
Okay, 4 o'clock, folks, I'm gonna call this session to order. Just kind of give you a few things, as I mentioned earlier, this is a discussion period, workshop. So, we will talk about, nothing will be voted on tonight, so nothing will be final on that. Also, just like any other city, we're coming off of a major brush removal, as everybody probably knows already. We're finishing it up, but the cities unfortunately does not operate on one crisis at a time. So, while we're looking at that and finishing up, we have water issues, drainage issues, streets, roads. So we're trying to eat that elephant one bite at a time, and that's all we can do. We try to stay within our means, obviously. So with that, since this is open, I want to open this period up now to citizens' comments. Citizens may make comments up to 3 minutes at a time. Please abide by that. I appreciate that. Knowing that if something's not on the agenda, which it's probably not tonight, we can't respond to your request by law. So it's not that we're trying to be ugly, it's just that we may not be able to reach so long.
I thought it was a workshop, it's just I thought it's 4 minutes.
You can have your comments, you can make. But since it is a workshop, let's start that. Okay, since we do have several people signed up, we'll start. Like I say, please hold your comments to 3 minutes if possible, and so everybody has a chance to talk, okay? First one in is that Nick?
Yes, sir.
Could you please come up and state your name and address?
There's 4 people part of like the presentation.
Here's one.
Yeah, we're gonna speak during the presentation, just about.
Oh, okay.
So,
No problem. They went fast. No, I'm talking about, you wanna do it before we do the presentation and then again the presentation?
No, it's whatever you plan on.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go, we're gonna start all over, okay. Joel, where you at?
All right.
Come on in, come up here. Is it- Since we don't have a audio or a microphone, we can try to use the phone here, so just come up and state your name and address, please, for the record.
Jojo Guzman, 22 Willow Run. And the main thing that I am addressing today is is part of the drainage. And my biggest concern is because I sent oodles of videos and everything of drainage. I even have pictures of just what it looks like every time, the drainage and problems that I have. But this goes long before, because what is occurring is when the homes are being built, there is nothing from the city that is preventing the builder to just build something without addressing those drainage issues. So the homes, when they were built on Armadillo, and when they were built up there on Cottonwood and Willow Run, those builders never addressed where their water was going to come from. So what happens is they all come onto my property to the point to where we have over 12 inches of water that stays at all times whenever it rains. It's just not when it's heavy rains, it's every time. I cannot even build on 3 of those lots because of all the rains, because nothing was ever addressed with the builders. My biggest concern is that if you're going to end up allowing builders, you've got to have some type of policies for the engineers to come in there, do some French drains, do something. Because right now, we got 4 lots across the street from us. When we have heavy rains, all their water comes over to the point where I have no grass in my yard now. Why? Because all the rains take everything away. And if you allow that, whoever buys that property to build and not address it, you're affecting my neighbor next door that's at 26 Willow Run, myself at 22 Willow Run, and the house on the other side, because all their water goes right into our property. And that's the main thing that, I am addressing. Like I said, there has to be some type of policy or something. Yes, the drainage issues has to be fixed. But the biggest thing that we do got to have some type of policy in place so that these engineers and builders, when they are building, will address it and to make sure that it's not affecting the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Andrew?
Joelle.
Andrea, your turn.
First, I would like to echo what she said. I think there needs to be much more. Oh, and Leah Hagen said, I thought everybody was.
Well, they might not,
I would like to echo what she says. I think better planning when there is a development. Where I live, there were no drainage issues until they paved the road, which has been a long time ago. It was a dirt road, and the water would just run off. Now, when it rains, I live on a peninsula, water's coming on the left and on the right. The side yard cannot be built on. My husband has a barn, it's sitting on this bricks or whatever it is, so it runs on the barn most of the time. I'm not planning on building anything there, but it's basically unusable. You can't put anything there. So I have trees. Which brings me to my next point. I wish there would be more long-term planning for anything in the city. And when it comes to drainage issues, I would like to make my daily plea. When you do something, please consider policies like don't pave over everything, permeable surfaces when something is paved. Don't pave every road. Keep some gravel roads that absorbs water. And integrate, please, vegetation into these drainage issues, because there are trees that actually help with drainage issues and shrubbery and things like that. Not only will it help with the drainage issues, it's going to be environmentally sound, it's going to help Morgan's Point, I think, in many more aspects than just the drainage. It's going to improve our quality of life and give Morgan's Point actually what it should be, a nice green town. And I think I just used 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Getting so good at that.
And you know what?
Cindy? Good? Looks like Cindy. You, your turn.
Well, I'm Cindy Byrne, I live on Timberwolf Court, and ever since they built the new houses behind me, I've had flooding in the yard over the street in front of my house because there's no drainage on North Point, which gets shut down sometimes because of drainages. So, well, it's,
So where are the new houses built on North Point?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the culverts and the old culverts and stuff that used to be there, they're all smashed in, they're not usable.
Okay, culverts are smashed. So I have to ask, just for clarification, so you're saying that the water it floods your yard, does it flood your house?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, it floods okay, I just wanted to
But it
clarify.
floods the street,
Okay.
all the debris washes down, and so I'm picking up sticks and stuff,
Right,
so I don't
right.
flood over.
Okay.
Thanks, Cindy, appreciate it. Okay, now, who lives at 20 Morgan's Point Boulevard? I can't read your name.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna do it the back way, okay?
That's okay. I'm Ann Cervantes. Live at Morgan's Point Boulevard. And so I'm right down the street from City Hall. I'm in kind of the older part of town, so we don't have any new buildings in our area, but we do have, I think it was just made that way where they built the properties kind of above each other. So it's kind of like a plateauing. So yeah, there you go, towards the lake. And actually my neighbor across the street has most of the water that comes through our yard goes right to his front yard. So he's actually had to build up a dam in his front yard just to stop the water from coming to his front yard. So I guess my biggest concern is, there's two things. One, is there something we should be doing in our own properties? I mean, are we required to do, or can we? And then the other question is, with the new parks kind of going in and stuff like that, is that whoever you're gonna be hiring to do, kind of landscaping, stuff like that, will they be doing some of the drainage stuff as well? Or is that gonna be required of them too? Okay.
That will be decided.
Okay.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Ann.
So your address is Morgan Point Boulevard?
Correct.
And what number?
20 Morgan.
20.
20, okay, thank you. I'm
Thomas?
sorry I didn't get that. I was trying to.
You, I can't read your last name either, Thomas, so I didn't go.
Oh,
by
that's
your
all right,
last
sir.
name.
It's Litany,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Thomas Litton.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for holding this meeting and gathering some additional information.
Tell me your address.
26 Cedro, so
Okay.
I've heard it Cedro, Zedro. So,
Close enough.
anyway, so hearing some of the people who've been here for years, I feel like I may be part of the problem because I'm in one of the newer additions in Morgan's Point, so, I apologize up front, but, I didn't know I was moving into a problem area. And, boy, we met this head on in 2018. I live at the cul-de-sac, on Central Circle, and the watershed is right off of my driveway. And, most of the time, it's a lake when it rains. Not in the watershed so much as it is in front of my driveway and in the road. So much that it's eroded the road completely. And the water stands there for weeks. Once the rain comes, it'll stay there for weeks, especially in the spring and the fall. So it creates a hazard with moss growing in there and stuff. And, we're in a neighborhood community where people like to walk and run. There's been several falls in that area. We've brought this up to the builder numerous times on why there wasn't more preparation for drainage when they put the addition in. And now that it's in, there needs to be corrective measures.
Who is the builder?
Brothers,
Brothers, and what was his response, or their response?
hey, this is how we handle rain in Texas. So welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't much of a response.
Okay.
Now, I do know that they attempted some of the things that I had mentioned mentioned in my emails to them, regarding culverts and stuff like that, and big water runoff areas, underground. They did for the back area, but again, I don't think that they called in a proper engineer for that, because they have flooding in that new back area as well. You can see it when it rains and people drive back there, you can see the water just flying when people drive through that area. So, you know, there's more issues there, so, thank you for
You bet.
Real quick, sir. Dennis, give me just 1 second, please. So this water runoff, you're saying the water's pooling in this area here?
Well, yeah, this is all water staying right here.
So this thing functional at all?
No, you're fine.
This is better, this is the result of our HOA president and chair. You know, they got some movement on that, since they've moved in. This has helped, but it has by no means addressed the problem. The water still stands there, it's still.
So that was an addition after the fact, then? That was that there, so,
This,
sorry, so y'all know what I'm looking at here.
this
so.
is after Carruthers built.
The lot here
Mhm.
was intentionally designed to capture the runoff.
Okay.
This is the entry point. What was happening was that entire inlet was clogging and never being maintained. And debris and things as it builds up. We had it excavated with Hard Texas, and they put in some drainage rock to try to capture the flow. I'll talk about it again in my comments with Mr. Baldwin, but my house is directly north of that, and the area that Mr. Ritter is talking about is this entire stained area.
Yeah.
It becomes literally like a sheet of ice, certain parts of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this whole back area, they burned this, so the water runoff from all of this area comes right through my backyard and puddles, right?
but we're
I
trying to
have
hear
a lake in my
But I mean,
backyard.
she can.
Okay.
Call
I'm
it.
just trying to, I'm visual.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Dorothy,
Thanks, Tom.
Yes,
You ready?
Can you make sure you're muted everywhere except your phone? Or like your phone is muted so you can,
my phone is muted.
okay, we just were hearing some noise from you. Like a
Yeah, I'm
radio or
sorry,
something.
it's the Vancouver Coast Guard, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, I think the computer microphone is on, that's the problem.
Yeah, we've.
Yeah, we hear her here and share. Can we hear her here? We're hearing her on the TV, so then I can mute this.
I
So
don't know
I'm hearing you on my phone.
I'm not sure that I'm hearing her on there.
She needs to mute herself.
Are we?
Okay, Randy and Claudia.
Oh,
You're up.
good. She will stand with you.
You're
Hi,
welcome, you're
how
welcome.
are you? Nice to see you. What neighbor?
What is your name and address, please?
Yeah, Randy
Well,
Bretzing,
thank you.
and it's number 7 Salter Court. Salter Court.
So we've sent you probably 11 videos and about 20 pictures of what's happening. And do you want to start or?
Oh, yeah, we're kind of at the base of Delta. And we collect water from our neighbors on all sides, right, left,
We
and
have a
behind.
very wide yard.
Yeah, it's a wide yard, not that deep of wide, but their water runs through our yard, from all sides. And then we get like a river going down each side of our house, if the rain's really big enough. When we get these extended rainy periods of several days in a row, like we've been having this year, then it's like that. And the water, one of the other ladies here talked about her standing water. We get water on one side of our house that is so deep, you just have to put on galoshes to go through it.
And the mosquitoes are terrible,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, it
Our
just
house
stands, it's just standing water. And it seeps out, and I mean, it's like that for days, weeks really, not days, weeks. It seeps out into the gutter, and as it goes into the gutter, it's not a big flow, but it doesn't take more than just a trickle. And the water runs down the gutter in front of our house, and it doesn't even make it to the end of the yard, you know, it just, from there, it goes over the street, and there's quite a broad band of water that runs across the street, even from this trickle. Turns into moss, and, we've had people, like somebody else mentioned, slip and fall right in front of our house there. We posted signs in our yard, slippery when wet, you know, that they, you know, they like to walk, and so we've, you know, they still do it. But this goes on for weeks, when we get into this rainy season.
And the road has 2 potholes now.
Cause it seeps under, it gets under the pavement too, yeah, and so now there's depressions, there's potholes in the road.
And our
On
driveway
each
is
side of the
eroding
house.
away, the cement is, you can see holes in the curb and it's eroding away. Our backyard is completely, so many areas that do not have grass anymore because of the
Topsoil.
Yeah,
erosion,
that
tons of
erosion.
erosion. We don't have flooding in our house is up higher, but we have a storage house behind built exactly like our house with brick, and it's being eroded around the foundation. And our little sidewalk out there that leads to that, it's almost, you can almost go under it because it's eroding away. What else? Yeah, it's just, we didn't know this, same as the others had noticed when we moved in, we had no idea about this, and,
It usually happens once a year. It's usually when we have one big rainy season, and it lasts for weeks. This was probably the longest one we just had.
yeah, since we moved in.
Yeah, this was really the longest.
So nothing was planned for any of this, it's obviously from the builder I built.
Yeah, we have the same builder, brothers. Yeah.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
And them as well.
And our neighbors,
Looks
the
like
water
everybody,
us from
everybody
their
here is in the
yard.
same boat.
And-
Like I say, we're trying to, see if we can hire some engineers to kind of give us some guidance. That's what it's about, we don't know if we get, how we get it, so at least we gotta take one step at a time, but we have to start somewhere.
So holiday, take it in the building.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council for showing, having this meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Allen, for being here. We have a presentation. I'm gonna turn it over to Susanna just a little bit. She deals with communications, talks to a lot of people through the various social media platforms. And then, of course, I'll go into some of the discussions. I've met some of these people already and a lot more. But the thing of it is, we want to convey some graphics so you can kind of see it in from what they're speaking. Some of it may be redundant, but you'll get the point, I think, from the presentation. Then she'll turn it over to me and I'll go into a little bit more detail about some recommendations. Go ahead.
So just real quick to get started, I believe it was April 9th that we started getting that's when the flash flood came and we had to close down some streets. And this is when kind of all of this year kind of got going again. I know this is a very old problem, but just so you know, since then, I mean, I started April 1st. I'm the communications coordinator, and so this was like one of the big things that first started, and then we had the tornado. One of the projects that I had to begin was creating a database of everyone who was reporting some of their drainage concerns and issues that they were having at their home and in their neighborhood, and just anything they were seeing. They were taking pictures, sending it to Dennis, and also reporting it to our receptionist at the city hall. And so we thank you for all of your reports. I think a lot of you guys did report, and everything you guys are saying, I've seen it, I've heard you guys from your emails and things, and you may even see images and video from your actual report. Not everybody's videos or images are in here because we can only highlight so many, but your neighborhood or area of concern is highlighted in this presentation, just so you know. And then at the end, we'll kind of look at kind of an overview of where we've seen reports come in across the city. So just to get started, we're gonna start a little easy. This is 11 Salted Court.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in Rancho Del Lago, and we wanted to highlight that. So we've heard from a couple of you that live there. So you can see here where sitting water stands. The resident that lives here reported that there's just sitting water. You can see it in the street down here, and you can see it in the yard, and you can see where that grass is no longer there. The next, I believe, is 7 7 salted pork.
Here's a picture
She goes
of our
into
front
deeper.
yard and the path of water that has eroded away our yard into the street. If you'll notice, so much soil has been eroded away that we have stone. We have rock here. And it's down to rock. Comes from this side as well as the neighbors over here. This is from our backyard that's also draining from another neighbor.
Okay, so that gives you the idea of where that erosion or, that sitting water is at, and you can literally see the path, but then this is also the action that's happening in the backyard.
That's the storage unit. That's the storage unit we were talking about.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
the accessory building, okay.
Thank you for asking. Then we have 37 Cedro. You can see how high the water is on her lands, so that's, and then for reference, you can see on the map where that is located at. And she talks in her comments about, having fully replaced their front yard sod, after only living there for such a short time, after 4 years, so. Yep. So that's front yard, backyard, you can see those issues, and then we're gonna continue on said, same cul-de-sac, you can see the issues that. You can see, that's the road, and then just up there is right here where you can see the algae growing and you can see how that is a hazard, and then you can see the rushing water as well as just water picture and sitting water as well. So that is Cedro Circle. Now we're gonna move on to some other areas around the city. This is identified from a Facebook post on the Friendly Neighbors of Morgan's Point Resort. This is one person's home. And yeah, so, yep. And their fence even is down, so they're on Cherokee Lane, so.
I'm Cherokee, that's my street.
Yeah. So then we also have others identified from the same Facebook page or group. Usually I have a deck, some stairs, and a fire pit, not today. That's over there on, Blue Roan Drive. And then this one says, anyone else about town? And this post had about 20 comments of residents discussing the drainage that's going on in the city and like, what can we do? We don't know. Just the same reason why we're here today. So that's actually on Larkspur Lane. So you can kind of see where that's located. John Yancey Park is right here, and then over here, this is North Point Road, so it's kind of like to the left. And then this is also on.
Neighbor's house is flooding so badly. I'm here, into my backyard, and a full free flow river going through my property.
That was also identified on that same Facebook group, and they said, do you think the city should do something about this? And that post had about 46 comments, also residents sharing more pictures of their problem areas, as well as just talking about, some people who have lived here for 35 years were commenting and sharing like just what solutions they've come up with, and people trying to help out people. But I think her question here asking, do you think the city should do something, is something to highlight here. And then here's that map of areas. You can see Rancho del Lago right here is a big heavy hit area. Some areas where I've like put one pin, there was multiple things reported, but yeah, so you can see that it's kind of all over right now. So that's what I have, and so if you want anyone to speak.
Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Come on up. This is more specific to what you just saw. Yes, sir. And just give us a little bit of an idea for what, these are people that haven't spoken yet, Mayor.
Okay, how you doing? I'm Nick Wilson, I'm at 11 Cherokee Lane, that was the one that you saw with the big river going through the yard, overflowing through the chain link. And that video, in my opinion, didn't quite do it justice, but if you're interested in more videos and pictures, I've got more videos and pictures of all that. But, just to make sure I hit all my points here, most like, I've heard it twice here, shortly after we relocated here in 2018, we discovered that the sellers had misrepresented the property by failing to disclose its history of flooding. Furthermore, they conveniently omitted the fact that our backyard hosts a powerful river that surges during heavy rainfall. Despite our efforts to mitigate these challenges with sandbags, water dams, and other measures, including heavy machinery, we remain unequipped to handle such significant water events. Each time it rains for more than 10 minutes, my wife and I fear that flooding will occur. Our records clearly show how close the water comes to our home and ship. The consequences extend beyond mere inconvenience. The erosion of our property, damage to gardens, decks, the frequent collapse of the chain link fence, now that's secured up by ratchet straps, and the accumulation of debris from the neighborhood have become sources of frustration. These issues are entirely avoidable with the implementation of appropriate preventative measures. Homeownership undoubtedly carries numerous responsibilities. However, it is crucial that the city addresses the drainage situation effectively and properly. Without significant changes, I fear that my home and some of the members of the community may soon be overwhelmed by the water during one of these occurrences. Thank you for your time.
Plus the family.
Where did you, Cherokee? No, that's Cherokee. Yes, sir.
I said I would.
I know.
I was thinking Cheyenne.
Would you put it out on the map, can you show, so that people can see it? You know which one it is?
At the very bottom.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Point Road. is the
Okay.
main road next to it.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right.
From what
So
I
you
can
go
gather.
Apache
Yeah,
to
we-
get, do you do Apache to get to you?
Yeah, Tejas to.
Tejas,
yes,
okay, all right.
So
Then
what I
I'll
can
just-
gather, everything comes from, like, everything in this square funnels in right here, and then it hits my backyard and goes to the creek, and we just get slammed. Thank you.
Sharon?
Yeah, we have some residents that are not here, we're representing, so, my name's Sharon Cobb, I live at 1611 Boss Lago, I'm the secretary for the HOA, Mark's here with me, he's the president. So, for Rancho del Lago, the Red Six did a great job, they did exactly what I was gonna say, and, so they document me here. We have that watershed that just drains right through their yard, goes all the way down Rancho del Lago Lane, and dumps into 102 Rancho del Lago, which is the White House right across from the maintenance shed. Yep, that is a retaining basin for basically the west side of Rancho del Lago. Those neighbors, their whole backyard is just a pool when they get any rain. They have rainscaping that's supposed to mitigate the rain and stuff and direct it, but it's a full stop when it gets to their backyard. There's no drainage, goes into a ditch somewhere or anything like that, it just sits there. And, this year, in fact, and it was a heavy rain year, but this always happens, just like Seven Salta, they've always, I've lived in the neighborhood since 2018, it always is like that.
Yeah.
But this year was especially bad. So with 102, Rancho del Lago, they had so much saturation and they had to wait till it evaporates, and it's a lot, that their fence fell down, and then they had it. So, so that's like the west side. Now, as far as mine, 1611, I live on a pond, and, we're having so much water drainage issue that our backyard is eroding away, and our fences are about ready to go. So, like, what they did to extend the yards is they took the spoilage from building and dumped it over the side,
Oh,
and then
great.
put some dirt on it. So now we see exposed rock, the whole thing, there was no retaining wall built. So, so that's a huge issue we have to address and try to fix and everything, so, and there's other areas around the neighborhood, around our pond that you can see erosion and note that, so, and then, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, I'm Mark Roderick, I live right across the street from, if you don't mind, it's okay to step away from that. So I live right here, this is my spot, great neighbors, we're still in town, and I've been commiserating about what we deal with right here. And this is kind of what sparked a lot of conversation within our HOA. And it had to do with the builder. We had HOA meeting with the builder, had HOA. And I remember it a little differently from my neighbor Tom. I remember him saying, hey, the city signed off on the roads, is basically what I remember him saying. So I'm not here to criticize them, but I'm just saying that was what my impression. I've been here for 4 seasons now. And what we get in our area is that my house is at the bottom of this 8 house island. And what happens is the water sheds and will run underground literally for weeks after rainfall. Mm-hmm. And so there is a drain system that the previous owner was smart enough, frankly, I think he had to fight the builder to put it in. But they put it in, it just kind of dumps out on the street. There's no channel, there's no anything. So that water will continue to drain, and as people have aeration systems and everything else, water is constantly coming out there. So it just basically exacerbates this whole problem. And then now I literally have to sweep in front of my driveway multiple times during these events, almost every other day, to keep the algae buildup from happening. And then I've taken actually pressure washing half of the street. I can't do the other half because, as Thomas said, the road is so badly destroyed that I'm going to literally do damage to the road. And I want to take responsibility for that. But I have to clean out that inlet. If you can see it here on this inlet, the HOA hasn't gotten to the point where we have a regular maintenance party to come in and do that. Because our challenge is the water runs in there, we get debris from all upstream, and we're constantly dealing now with keeping it clear. And now what's happening is it's eroding on both sides, and water is now sitting and standing. And so, we finally were like, hey, enough's enough. We reached out to the city manager. Mr. Baldwin came right out. It was great. Walked the whole property with us. All around here, we walked all these places and locations. We know that there are real concerns with 2483. And what happens is water comes down all the way from the high spot up at the school. Everything runs downhill, as we know. And it comes down here, and then it's channeled through an easement, a fencing easement, that really floods these people's backyard. I know Mr. Bowles had said that water was within inches of coming into his house. And this was on the 9th of April. So it came all the way in, and then what it does is it comes down the street, basically comes up to the level of the curb, all the way down Cedro until it hits here. And then also there are culverts that are cut into people's front yards. Several of them are not sloped properly, so they create standing water, and also insects and other types of things that we have to deal with and try to put dunks in and things like that, and rain washes it away. If I could just have just a slide go at a time. So this is phase 4, right? So Kiela Properties built this, put the infrastructure in, they stubbed it, and then they sold it to Carruthers Executive Homes for phase 4. They are not part of our HOA, they have nothing to do with this anymore. A lot of it's because of the kind of wrestling tangling we did with them with this whole thing. So they have a subterranean ditch system that our detention lot dumps into through the backside. It's not right, Mr. Litney's backyard floods entirely, it's not connected. So we're looking at this problem going, we've got houses that border that new area, construction is going in. They obviously changed their methodology in the new phase. So we're still dealing with how do we connect into that? Well, what rules do we have? And then also it's bigger than just us. Like we have some money to try to do something here, but after talking with the city, we're like, hey, well, why don't we talk about maybe a more collective approach and seeing what maybe we can do, what the city can do, and things like that. And Rancho Del Lago is basically has a couple of different inlets, but they're all on private property. And they just kind of dump through, like I think what Seven Salto was saying, is it just kind of ends up coming through. So we have a lot of people that are putting in swimming pools and just kind of trying to live. But what are the rules around water channeling and dealing with what the original plan was? It's hard to understand as people are changing over in houses and things like that. So I really appreciate this forum going in. Was there any questions, sir? Did I miss anything? Okay, I know there's some great comments from my neighbors and things like that. I don't want to double stake, but yeah, we definitely want a little bit of help if we can get it. So thank you. Amen.
Just for clarification, I did hear the same comment from Carruthers, but I pushed back and said, hey, you guys put this in. It was up to you. And that's when the Texas, that's how we handle water here in Texas. So it's,
It's been an ongoing battle between the
Oh,
the city and the builders and everybody's like, it's their problem.
Randy?
Hi,
Would you like to go ahead and just say a few words there?
I'm Randy Fultuzzi, I live at 37 Buckskin Loop. If you go back to the one slide that Suzanne showed, we all saw the Blue Roan where the river was going. That isn't even close to being as bad as it is. I'm gonna be the passionate guy here, so please forgive me, no disrespect, but my house is the one on the upside of that. And the reason that Blue Roan flooded is because the river decided to jump my lawn instead of being in the culverts and take a 90-degree path right to their fence. If they didn't have a fence there, all that water would have been right into their house. But because of the fence, all I got is the lakes. Mark, you were talking about a swimming pool. Come over to my property. I got a 4-sided swimming pool. That was so bad, the water came down the road, and I'll explain why this happened. Came down the road and was going down in that river area at first. But then so much water came down, it jumped into the lawn and went over the berm of the culvert and just cut across the lawn. Separately, it came into the other side of the house. So I had water down the street, water on one side of the house, water on the other side of the house, and the river coming down the back. My house was surrounded by water on 4 sides. Wow. 4 sides. Now, Mr. Baldwin knows, because he was very kind, and I know he's new, so we know it's not anything related to the city manager, current city manager, but this started before. So I'm gonna talk about really quickly, what caused it. Mark touched on a little bit about the slope. The Romans, and I beg some forgiveness here, the Romans hundreds of years ago proved you can't get water to run uphill. At my property, the street goes up, right here, going at Buckskin. There's a double culvert in the road right here. The street goes up like this, and that's why that water curved down into Blue Roan's house, because it cannot go uphill. The Romans proved this, it cannot go uphill. What further exacerbates it is the culverts were blocked. Now mine in front of the house, at one point where the city approved the culvert underneath the driveway, is about 2 feet deep. Where it goes to the power box at the end of my property, only about 80 feet, it's almost flush. So that means it's going like this, it will not go up. So what's happening in that area, and I'll explain where the damage goes to the rest of these houses. What's happening is the water's coming down on my side of the street, and I'm on the north side of the street. It's coming down in the ditch, has nowhere to go. So it fills up and has some drainage down the pathway. But the other side of the street, on the southbound side of the street, the same problem exists. So when that water coming from over here comes down, it jumps the roadway. The roadway has damage in it, and that's what we've all been paying for, is the damage in the roadway caused by this issue. So what's happening is the culverts aren't right. It can't even make it to that double culvert.
So that the culvert that you were saying is, it's not plugged, it's just goes uphill.
It goes uphill.
Okay.
And I notified the city last year about this,
Okay.
and they said they were gonna send the city manager and the engineer out to the house
Okay.
to look at this. But I asked for a callback, of course, never got anything. And that's my bad, because I didn't follow up. But same issue, and it happens, it was brought up by somebody earlier, it doesn't happen once a year. In my culvert, that culvert fills up all the time, and once it fills up, I get to live with mosquitoes for weeks until it fills out. But some of the other issues that are talked about are long-term engineering studies. Trenching that right now, get that water to go downhill, should be the most important, and I'll tell you why, really quickly, is if they fix that, then when you do your engineering study, you'll know where the natural flow is supposed to go. These streets down here didn't have any water in the culverts at all when it was flooding my property in Blue Roans. There was no water in the culverts downstream. Why? Because it wasn't trenched to those culverts. Now, you see all these other houses? Mother Nature found a way to cut through the properties. And if you look at a direct line in some of the videos that I sent, and I have a lot more videos and a lot more pictures, some of the videos show that if you did some drainage ditches where Mother Nature already cut the path, you know, they call them the cement spillways, like you see in neighborhoods, if those were put in, which wouldn't take 5 years to put in, they could be done inside of a year. If you put them in where Mother Nature already cut, you could run that water up to the big spillways and the creeks where it dumps into the lake. That would give immediate relief to some of these houses, probably about 10 to 12 houses that have flooding. So that's the biggest issue. Now in my house, just like everybody else's, I have no more topsoil on my lawn.
No.
I have mosquitoes. There's damage to the streets. My driveway's down cracked. My septic is in possible damage because of where that river that went into Blue Run. And if you look at all the other people, they've all got the same issues. But in my particular case, and it's not affecting just me because it's affecting every house downstream, it's because the city has an uphill there. All the city needs to do immediately is just cut that down. One of the neighbors even did that himself. He bought a trenching machine, trenched his culvert just in the center about 6 inches, and he got the water to run into the culvert drain and it moved along. I asked the city to do the same thing right where my power box is, because I don't want to cut into my power box, as Mark was saying. Do I want to do that? No, I don't want to cut into the power box. But the power box, if you look at it, is being flooded by that river. Okay?
We appreciate the information on that, so hopefully the engineering study will allow us to proceed to get some of this, some of these things we can do in-house. Those things that, well, we need to know we can do things, stuff like that would be a lot easier to banks to do than to have a major flow like bank, portable subdivision, you know, so.
But no disrespect, an engineering study is important. I talked to construction guys, and right there, they said, if I had done any action on my own property, which I was allowed to do, I would have put a construction barrier up. What would have happened when that rain came up is the water would have continued to back up the street, would have flooded my house and a few other houses. So nobody really needs to study the fact that the water will not run uphill. That is an action that the city could take immediately. And I talked to Mr. Baldwin about it. He's well aware. He walked out there and you can see. You just have to drive on the street. When you see the hill go up like this, how is water gonna go down that? And that's damaging 10 houses.
Let me go ahead and get some, we're gonna talk about what we're gonna do next. Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thanks.
So, we know who is affected, and it's pretty much throughout various locations. So. You do? Okay. It hits home. No, so we do have, multiple locations out the city. It's decades in the making. There's, probably in the last, or years and years and years of flooding, there's probably plenty of people we can point the finger to, or whether it's developer, city, a builder, individual private owner that happens to do some things that
All the above.
All the above. But while what you're about to see is going to give us a path forward if you choose, or you can come up with something else, council. Obviously, it's your decision. But my take on it is let's see if we can start moving the needle and getting some of the stuff addressed. And if during that course of that activity, we find out that there's a developer that we can reach out and legally get a hold of and help them facilitate the corrections, we will. And if we can't, or it's the city, or if it's a builder, or what have you, we'll take that action as we go through. That will not be forgotten. So it's not all in the city necessarily, and some of it might very well be. I don't know the answer, but I do know that there's a path forward that we could probably start doing something better than just letting it continue on. So I've got some recommendations. Doesn't mean, like I said, there's different ways of looking at it. But one of the recommendations, and I've talked to a lot of people, many in this room, and dozens probably outside the room, that share their individual stories. One of the ways we could look at it is, I'm gonna talk about different steps, and bear with me and I'll go through it, I'll try to explain it in enough detail that you'll kind of grasp where we're coming from. If we engage the services of a civil engineer who specializes in drainage, I believe we can get a lot, start moving this process forward. Not all civil engineers specialize in drainage. They all have their specialty. I've heard it from themselves. So, but I did find one that is a specialist in drainage, and he was highly recommended from other people in the city management arena that gave me quite a bit of confidence after I talked to him at length. But one of the things we could look at is, one is have us, if we did engage the services of a civil engineer, is to have them conduct a citywide assessment of the known, and that'd be things from the drainage studies that we've had in years past. Even though I think the last one I think we've had was around 2014, I think we got a drainage map from 2015 that was developed. So it goes back that far. So the last 10 years, a lot of developments occurred and a lot of changes, I'm sure, in that water flows moved us around as well. But that citywide assessment as well as reported drainage issues are something that need to be looked at. Well, we'd like to have that civil engineer rank the areas based off of severity. And for example, that obviously is threat of persons and property, very important. City infrastructure, we heard about the roads are getting damaged. Mr. Philippucci, his roads already showing damage. I've seen, over there, the trooper, I forget his last name.
Bowles.
Yes, he's got his, culvert for his driveways washing away. We've seen roadways, public roadways that we are responsible for getting damaged, right there in that subdivision and others. Like I said, I've seen it throughout the city. I purposely went out on 3 different rain occasions. Some of you have seen.
Mother's Day.
Was it Mother's Day?
I was out there, I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Did I have my wife with me?
You did.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I was giving her a tour.
What a nice guy.
I know. I didn't do anything that day either.
Took her to work day on Mother's Day. There you go.
Probably wasn't a smart move on my part. Nevertheless, I've done this several times to see it, different rain, and they weren't back to back. I made sure that I had a good assessment from driving the streets. I saw water constantly where there's no way to drain it. It was just basically a sheet of water coming down numerous streets throughout the city, in addition to what you've already seen tonight. And I think that's something that is helping, instead of channeling that water out a certain way in a logical manner that prevents us to get have storm drainage issues, I think it's exacerbated it. So I think there's things we could look at, but we gotta rank it some way, shape, or form, and everybody's important, but property, persons, property, and city infrastructure are just 3 off the top of my head. We need to provide recommendations on which, this engineer would provide recommendations on which projects, there might be multiple that need to go at the same time. But which one should move forward based upon the ranking and or available funding? If it's a complete intersection redo, I'm telling you right now, that's gonna take some challenge. We're gonna have to find some other funding source. The city board's point does not have those kind of reserves to do a major intersection redo. I come from a larger city where I can tell you, everything's expensive, and you can't do it with the in-house staff, you have to have outsourced. So that could be an issue. But we'll look at that, and that's what I would ask the engineer to do, is to rank them based on that criteria, and we'll move forward based on the ranking and available funding. This next step would be to ask the civil engineer to assess the drainage site in question, specifically some of the things we're talking about here tonight, those locations, determine contributing factors, identify and or determine mitigating strategies. I've talked to this engineer at length, and some of the things I was under the impression from based on our conversations, no disrespect to all of us, but I had looked backwards, and things that I didn't think about going from the lake up versus going from the location down, because if it's not draining, if you start up here, you still got the problems down there and create more problems. And that's one of the things he talked about. That said, determine contributing factors, identify and determine mitigating strategies, proper course of action needed, and the locations where the work is to be performed, and determine the scope of work and the materials needed, and create a drainage design plan for the city staff to operate on. And we'll talk about funding in a minute if it's an option. The next thing I'd ask them to do is, the next step would be for the city to acquire materials and perform the statement of work as recommended by the engineer, and construct the drainage solution per the engineer's specifications. I would say that while we think that, remember, it's not gonna be looked in isolation. The current study that we had from, the last study we've had from 2014 will be utilized, and at least looked at and assessed by the engineer. And whether that's gonna be useful or not, I don't know. We've had a lot of development since then, and he made mention of some of the things that may have occurred where you had problems that could have been addressed, but you may have development on it now. Well, I'm hearing exactly that. There's areas, and today I was looking at some other information, and apparently we had some lots where we knew there was some, not we, but we had every reason to believe that there was some solutions that cross properties, well, those properties now they're built on, so I'm not sure how that would work. It's private property, so obviously the development, was justified, but the drainage aspect of it, I don't know how much is thought of in that regard. Nevertheless, get the construction of that work done, and that leaves us with the biggest challenge of all. Regardless of whose fault it is, we will try to find the right person or company or what have you to help in that funding strategy. Assuming we went ahead and started moving forward with some kind of solution, there's several strategies we can consider. One is to use budgetary process to allocate resources. We have, obviously, tax dollars, and there's fees and what have you that we have right now that may help provide some funding for this problem. The problem is, there's nowhere near, with all the other competing interests for your police, fire, water, sewer, your just roads, there's just so much demand for those dollars. It's gonna be it'd be kind of challenging to do it. If that's what it says here, we could do it, but likely have limited impact. It won't be a robust program or even a moderate one. I think the other program would be on that. The next strategy would be implement a drainage fee, depending on the amount of the fee. If you want $20, that's $500,000. If it's, what's 480? $10, $5, $3 per water meter. We would give some money. The higher the number, the more robust the program would be. The lower the number, the least effective it would be relative to the higher numbers. It can create a drainage program and allow it to be self-funded. That is an option. If the fee's strong enough, you could look at revenue bonds in the future because you have a way to pay it back. That's an option. Yes, ma'am.
Would that be $20 one-time fee or per month or?
So that's, I'm just referring to as per month. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I should have
okay.
put that up there. I didn't do
Okay.
that.
I just wanted to.
Well, I'm just using that as an example. These are just samples. These are examples. Doesn't mean
Right,
that you get,
right.
I'm recommending one of them. This strategy, like I said, would create the program and it could be self-funded. If you wanted, if it was robust enough and you wanted to issue debt, it would be a way to pay that debt off. And so that would be an option. Lower fees will have limited impact on resolving drainage issues, while higher fees obviously will have a greater impact. Another funding strategy, and some areas won't qualify. For example, in my opinion, I can't say this for certain, I would say the Rancho Del Lago would not qualify for this.
Right.
Okay, but community development block grants are something a lot of cities use. It's usually it is targeted by the federal government to low and moderate income families and or areas. So if we got something along that line, in order to qualify for that or even apply and go through the process, we're gonna have our audits in place. I'm sure people have heard this before. We're several audits behind, I guess, during the storm, the ice storm everybody had, kind of set everybody back. I don't know the reasons, I wasn't here, but I do know you don't have your audits in place. Until the audits are completed and everything's accounted for, the government's probably not gonna give you money, and I would lay your money on that. It's just the way the government is. So we have to address that. We are doing that. It's a process. It's not as fast as I'd like to see it, but you already had approach to deal with that, so it's moving forward. One of them's closed out. We got 2022 they're working on right now, and I'm hoping by the end of this year and the start of the next fiscal year, probably by March before the next one's due, I'm hoping that all of them are behind us and we can start reaching out. So but bottom line is CDBG funding would help certain parts of the city. It will not probably help out everybody, so that's one of the drawbacks of this option. Funding strategies, here's a hybrid approach, and one might be more likely to succeed, I think, and I'll tell you why. The strategy could cover initial costs in the program by allocating by using the existing funds that we have in the city through a normal budgetary process. We would allocate some money to dedicate for that, for the drainage program. In addition to that, a modest fee, and I use modest as relative. Someone would say it's not, some would say it would be. Say $5, that would generate about $120,000 a year. Added on to what the city is able to put in, we could probably get close to the $200,000 range. that would give us enough money to get the program up and going. The funds will be used in the interim period while we're getting those audits knocked out, which have to be done, doesn't matter who's sitting in my chair or who's sitting around this table, they have to be completed, or we're kind of like dead in the water in a lot of different ways, and this council wants to see it resolved. They want to get it done, over with, and move past that part of Orphan Point's history. And it will be, I can assure you. They're committed to it, and so am I. But the interim period while that's being done, we would have enough money to go ahead and start moving forward with the program and use those dollars where we know CDBG funding would not be allowed to be used. Again, they're gonna tell us how that money is gonna be used. We built a park and clean over the lower moderate income area. It's a beautiful park, and it's one of those things where you look at it, it's just as good as anything, if not better than most. And just compared to other communities, I think that they did a really good job. So the funding's there, it's flexible, very flexible. You could use it for roads, drainage, water, parks. You can even rebuild houses or renovate houses if you want. There's different things you can do with CDBG funding that you can't do with a lot of grants. So, and you can get awarded that every year. I looked at that different areas of this area of the city, and there are some areas I think would fit that model for us to go ahead and make the application. So I think we can get some of this stuff out of the way if we were to start a program like this and use those dollars based on the ranking and available funding as recommended by the civil engineer. Then when the audits are done, backfill that with the appropriate use of those dollars in those targeted areas. I think it would sustain the program between the various sources, fee, city budget, and CDBG funding. And so I guess what I would say is these are some ideas. There's probably different ideas, probably better ones out there, but when you got this complex of an issue, we're not gonna be able to do it in-house. City of Morgan's Point don't have engineers can do this kind of work. We could outsource it, if you will, through the existing, the engineering firm that we do business with. They told me they didn't know right off the bat, but they said they could find us a civil engineer. But I'd rather have someone locally, someone we can reach out and touch and talk to. And there is one next door in the Temple, and I talked to Belton about it, and both the city manager and his assistant city manager. And I'm confident, based off of my interview and talking to those, and doing just a little bit of additional research, talking to other people, that this is probably a viable option moving forward if we choose to do that. But I don't have all the answers. The council ultimately has to make a decision whether this is something that we feel we can do or we don't think we can, and that's something that can't be decided tonight. What I'm looking for now is, if this is not a good option, I'm here to take direction and give me where you want me to spend my time, because the budget is gonna have to be proposed next month. So if I'm going to deliver that proposal, if this is a program that needs to be in there, then I need to have some indication, this is one we probably need to go ahead and explore, and that's really all I need. And then I'll go ahead and take it from there and try to bring back a viable program. And if this isn't it, I'm all ears, because there's probably different ideas. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she's on mute or something.
Hold this one second. You're on mute for some reason. We'll turn it back on.
We can hear you on here.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
good.
So when the new subdivisions were built, did they either file a drainage plan or drainage mitigation plan, possibly with Bell County or the city, or have we exhausted trying to find what the plan was, if there was a plan?
Yeah, I've asked staff about that. Jesse, you've been around, and you've been around this water issue for a while. You have a little bit more information than I do. Well, you have a lot more.
Yes, the developer submitted complete plans, including stormwater drainage, and to the city, and the city's engineer at whatever point in time, at the time, approved those plans before we allowed them to move forward.
Okay, so maybe that can be made available to this civil engineer also.
Yes, and I was gonna say that, to highlight that current drainage plan that we have from 2014, the drainage maps from 2015, that would be a part of their assessment as well. So it's definitely gonna be included in the assessment. To what extent,
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
was
know.
thinking, they said 2018 is what they said, I think, Rancho de Blanco, so that was after the master.
2017 is the Rancho de Blanco.
Right, but I think those are developments that would also be considered anyway. I'm talking about going back for the study, I'm sorry, Councilmember Allen, I was thinking about the studies that we have in place and what moving forward, but yeah, all development would also be looked at, in addition to that.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I think we need to give Dennis some type of guidance, and we've gotta do something. I mean, we gotta start somewhere. I think starting with an engineer, or civil engineer, that would kind of give us some guidance as to what we need to do first. Maybe there's, otherwise we have, like I said, depending on the funds that we have, we'll look at what we can do also.
When we moved into our house, our people didn't tell us about the, after we got in, we found the original documents and it said a retaining wall should have been built, and it hasn't been, so we've been dealing with some drainage issues all the time. Thankfully, we've been able to mitigate the problem, and we do have the beltway running into the lake right behind it, so we're not messing anybody else up along the way. But I think that's what's happened multiple times, is that multiple people are getting messed up down the road, and so obviously, this isn't, if I had a beautiful green lawn and it got washed out every time it rained, I wouldn't be very happy. So I really think we do need to do the drainage study. And then maybe at that point, we could even give recommendations. I was gonna ask too, is there any ordinances that we know of that would, not allow you to do certain things on your property that might affect the neighbor's water right away? Cause I think some of that is part of the problem.
I think maybe I misspoke, I definitely wanna make sure it's clear. I'm not looking at funding a new drainage study, that's gonna be a lot more than what I'm proposing.
Okay.
I'm proposing to have them look at the existing work that's already been done.
Okay.
Look at the development since then, find out, look at these particular areas that we know about or have been told about.
Okay.
And give us assessment of the best path forward. Now, that may be, we need to update this study, but from what I understand, we can look at those problem areas, look at what we do have, and start addressing some of these areas. He actually felt it was a good plan moving forward from this guy's take. So that's, and I think that's a lot cheaper than doing a full study. Now, he said that doesn't mean we may not, he still said that could still result in a need for a study, but he says at this stage, I've dealt with this issue, I think he said he did it in Soledo, and been through some of the same issues over there. And so our approach is something that's been used before by this firm, and he specifically specializes in it, so.
So then, would come in and do this, kind of look at the additional issues. Could he possibly just recommend things that we can do without doing a full-blown study?
We're not doing a full-blown study, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but then if he takes the current drainage study, and then he goes out and looks at the problem areas, would he be able to just give us recommendations what to do with the problem areas, so that we as a city could move forward with?
And he said that that's exactly what he said he could do, and that will help alleviate some of these problems. Now, what I didn't highlight, that fee is also for, when I say the staff, we've got some equipment we think that will be utilized. I end up putting them under Jesse's shop if we end up going for this program. So you'll start seeing some organization changes to make that work. They have equipment between him and BJ, and, but we can make the program grow. Current staff would be available to do this, so this is the funding is not only just for engineering, but it will help pay for those positions to people to go out there and do the work. One thing we need to also worry about is materials, and that's something that's factored into this. So I think it will start moving that needle, getting some of this stuff resolved. And what you just described, he can do it by location. Now, he may not start there, he may start somewhere else that he ends up doing this.
Yeah,
I like the hybrid approach, Dennis, that you laid out.
Okay. It's not perfect, but given the magnitude of everything, I don't know what options we have at this
It
stage.
could get us moving forward and correcting issues in a moderately timely manner.
Right. Now, one thing I did hear from a lot of citizens is they would prefer that if there ever is a fee, not saying they would agree with this, but there is a fee, they wanna make sure that it is restricted for drainage only. Which is what I see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question.
And I guess that's reaffirmed by the crowd.
Yeah.
So they don't want it mixed in, so we create a special, funding mechanism where it will be brought to you in that manner. So if you end up doing that.
I have a question for you. When you say moving the needle, because I've been here since 2018, like a lot of these folks, and I live at the bottom under Mr. Angie over there, and it comes right down in my front door. And like a lot of people, I learned after the fact. After we bought the house, we have water coming in the house. And so, when you say move the needle, what kind of time frame are you actually looking at?
That depends on how robust the program gets started. Now, we can go to the extremes, and or we can go, as in, the CDBG funding, the grants, if you will, from the federal government, will be targeted and it will not be available, I'm sure, to the city. So it's gonna be either a fee or existing resources. We've got roads everywhere, have got, I mean, there's a lot of stories there as well. The council's trying to address roads and all these other things that's before them. So I would say it depends on how robust that fee is. If the fee is higher, there's more resources to be applied to it. And we can just how fast, I couldn't even project at this stage. I can tell you that I don't like wasting my time, I'll be honest with you. You can talk to anybody that known me for years, I wanna either do it or not and move on. And that means we gotta see some work results. And so hold me accountable, the council does, and that's what they're supposed to do. And I accept that, but I think the program would move forward. Now, how fast that engineer can do this stuff, because we're not having a whole team of engineers, we're having someone who specializes that will be working, hand in glove with us on this is the problem, okay, this is what I would recommend you doing. We'll have the people, once I got the assurance of the funding, we can go ahead and start with the city funding, but I need some other funding in addition to that would be the fee. And then we'll go right in and start as fast as we can. But,
Dennis?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the fee to get the engineer started can be eked out from the 24-25 budget?
I think we can start that, that's why I'm hoping that I can, if it answers yes, then it's gonna take us a while to hire people and get things lined up. So ideally, we would go ahead and ideally bring a proposed budget on the next month, and then let's say you all decide to go fee. I bring an ordinance to that and make it effective on October. And then when we do the normal announcements, which you all know, everybody's gonna be charged extra bit on their water meter. And at that time, but still yet, we can go ahead, I'll get an engagement letter, things like that has to be done with, scope of work and what have you, through the engineering company, in order to get this engineer ready to go first of fiscal year. So we're talking days, probably, what are we looking, 2 months, 2.5 months for the budget goes around, so we're probably looking about 1 October, it depends how fast we hire people, we can still advertise it, I just don't think we need to hire anybody till we know we got an adopted budget, so until that day, we wouldn't be able to, but we can still recruit and be ready to hire them right off the bat. So
And when you say hire, is this replacement positions or
no,
is
this
this
would be,
incremental headcount?
this would be dedicated to the resources from the fee and the existing funding that we put in there to start this, the seed money, would all be captured within that cost center, and it would be, that's how it's paid for. It would be nothing coming out other than what the seed money you all put in. It would be a new hire, yes, it wouldn't be existing resource, we don't have the capacity to do it right now. And they'll be working, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure they have plenty of work to do. But that's how it's gonna be paid for, we shouldn't even go down this road, because we don't have the.
So right now you're thinking one person?
No, it'd be 2, I'm sure. It'd be 2, and they'll be under Jesse's shop, just what you told me, right? You think 2?
There's one for drainage and one for brush though, right?
Well, the brush guy, I know, but the brush guy is gonna be doing this for a while. There'll be enough, depends on the set of the fee, there'll be enough for Jesse to take 2 guys, he can oversee it. Now, he may use different people within his shop that has talents that the other 2 may not have, but he'll dedicate 2 people for this job.
Dennis, I think what I'd like to see, since, the guidance is to give direction, I'd like this individual engineer, the person you're talking about from Temple, if we could get that individual in here next month to kind of give a brief presentation on expectation management, what they're thinking they're gonna be able to do, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what you can do with the budget and work this funding into the next year's budget. All of it, just play with it.
Well, I have.
Okay.
I can tell you I can't. It depends on.
Oh, I know where they're gonna go with it all, so which ties into this one, kinda like we had the water rate proposal, I'd like to see a fee proposal break that down for me exactly, I mean, you kind of threw some numbers out there, but, and then kind of, for me, most importantly in my mind right now, this corrupt thing is just getting my kittens. That's just, I just made that up, by the way. That is,
We make t-shirts and we sell them.
We
make money.
That is just unsad. I don't know if there's anything we can do.
Get my kittens.
But I would like to put Mr. Potts on that, pursue some sort of legal action with them or whoever. I mean, it's one thing if there's one or two houses in the subdivision, but I mean, this just seems like a class action lawsuit waiting to happen.
Not only that, but if our city approved their drainage plan, and it's those done, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, no, that's something else that we absolutely need to do.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to jump in earlier about shared resources, with Bell County, because, we all pay property taxes. Some have been exempt and, but at the time that, I personally was paying property taxes and I had a property tax assessment come in the mail, opened it up and I was quite shocked, and so I filed an appeal, and I went down armed with the drainage. And I said, hey, you guys fix this problem, I'll be happy to pay the increase. But until you do, don't increase my property taxes. And they said, okay. So Bell County is aware of it.
They've identified it as an issue.
Oh, we do each year, when we fight our taxes every year, the drainage, we take pictures.
Yeah.
They look at it,
So
they
they-
say that's something you need to talk to your city manager about, which we had the past city manager.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the roads in my mind. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We gotta get started, because if we don't, it's gonna destroy homes now in these yards, and it's gonna start tearing our roads up even more than they are. So we're just throwing bad money after bad money.
It's costing us money the way from the city infrastructure, and it's affecting the community. I totally agree.
So if Bell County signed off on the drainage and storm plans, then they have a stake in this fight too.
Identifying those, the players involved is important for me, because we definitely don't want the city to absorb a cost.
That's
that
exactly
we-
right.
that we can-
I don't think this is all.
But I don't know what legally we can do, and this council member said the same thing that we talked in the past about, or I've talked to our staff. Those are not our, we have to find a legal way to deal with
Right.
these issues. These guys have already done it, a lot of them have already. Well, at least they've tried to go down that road, I don't know how far they've gotten. So I just wanna highlight something. The engineer, when everybody's moving, and there's a lot of changes in, availability.
Yeah.
Would the August 13th workshop work, and that way you can hear them before you make a decision? I'll bring a proposal, right? I'll bring that back on that same day. And that way.
26 whole days? Yeah.
Well, I can do it sooner.
No.
But-
No, that's fine.
But the problem is not having, I know there'll be a lot of remote, meetings, and if that's what y'all want, I don't know, we may have enough with everybody here.
No, that's
If you wanna do it sooner, I could probably get one step next week. That's perfect. Okay.
I think August, that would be.
Okay.
That's actually sooner than I anticipated.
Because the one thing to consider too is that we're now in the dry season, so.
The only drawback
We
is.
have a little time.
Yeah, the only drawback is that I need to propose a budget to you on August 13th.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
I can do that with knowing full well that you're going, if you all don't accept that, then it's gonna have to be changed according to that,
Right.
to your wishes. Which is gonna be anyway, because when you're gonna look at the budget, see what you wanna change and what you wanna keep. So I'll build that in with that understanding, if you're okay with that.
And with these significant issues, Dennis, do we wanna look at having a workshop on Monday before the Tuesday council meeting?
You know,
And then,
oh,
because it's so tight lately with the workshop in front of the council meeting. And if we wanna do budgets and drainage and then roads,
well, the budget at that point will be a delivery. In other words, I factored everything in, and so it's coming to you to look at, and I'll deliver it to you, each will get a copy. And you'll take it with you from that day, and you'll come back. We can, two ways to do it. One is come back a week or two later and go ahead and start working through that process. Or if there's no feedback and there's no reason to have a meeting, then on September the 10th, I would look at adopting it. Now, we can do that adoption earlier if we need to. I'm more concerned about the tax dates, because you have to set that tax rate. The problem you have with that is you have debt dropping off during this next fiscal year, and that will impact future revenue for the city, because you don't have a chance to go issue new debt to take up that slack. So there's a good chance that it will all wash out in the end, and all those dollars will be moved to the road program. But there's probably gonna be an increase for that 1 year until that debt drops off, and it will drop back down the following year, or however you all wanna do it. So that's a little bit of a tricky situation there, but it's something we've got a path forward to deal with. So to answer your question, I'll be delivering the budget to you. And so you'll decide, you'll take it, and if you're good with the presentations, then you just take it back and think about it, and we'll have the next meeting on September 10th. And that's a good date, is it, Terry?
I'm pretty sure, but I'll let you know.
Okay, if not, we'll move it up. I don't wanna mess up with the tax rate rules, because you just don't play with that one. So, assuming that the budget's good as proposed, then that's fine. It's pretty much what you had this current fiscal year with some, obviously, there'll be some additional revenue because of that drop off of debt and increase of the tax rate along with to make that balance for that 1 year. But all that's going into roads, so it really doesn't, affect the operating budget. Operating budgets were held pretty close to where they were, except the new programs and services, and that will be outlined in the budget book, clearly stated, bolded, so you'll know exactly what this budget includes, different than you had the previous year.
great, fantastic.
So if I can do that on the 13th, I'll do the workshop, I'll have the engineer speak at that time, if you all are good with that. Does that sound good, Councilman Allen? Councilmember Allen?
Yeah, I just didn't know if we needed to split it up.
Yeah.
I'm good, either way.
Okay, and then for funding, I'll have that proposal, and, because there's other fees being raised, I probably wouldn't recommend right now, just tell you my way of thinking is there's other things that have to be addressed by fees, and so I would probably cap it at 10, no more, maybe between 5 and 10 range, but I wouldn't go over 10, so just let you know where I'm heading. Okay, and then Neil, that was, like I told you early on, we don't wanna absorb anything we shouldn't, so I will definitely reach out to him. It's a comprehensive issue, and he may or may not wanna deal with it at that level. He can be a facilitator to get a company maybe outside. We may have to figure out a way to fund that, but I think it's well worth looking at. Did I cover all of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Engineer, funding, and Neil, got it. All right, just Andy. Okay. I'm good with this, we're good. I thank everybody for coming out. I know a lot of people didn't show up, but I'm sure they had a lot of stuff.
Folks, this is not gonna be the last time you see us either. This is gonna be an ongoing project, so we will keep you informed as we go through. So there will be some more meetings, and we'll find out where we're going. We don't know either yet. So thank you all for being here, though.
Thank you.
Get started. All right.
I know.
It's really I heard your name, I said, gotta shake that hand. No, so I'm gonna talk to him, I was like, I know I could never really help you, so I do apologize, because we were never responding, because even here, I didn't know because we can fix this, but I think he's been start at the top of the street. And I understand, try to make it argument, I understand. But those drainage ditches that are downstream from me that don't have water, could take water off my property. I'm already at $20,000 to $40,000 in damage, okay? And somebody's gonna rectify it. I can't get, by the way, I can't get that insurance, you know why? When I had to call the insurance, and they said, well, you have to send an engineer. So my engineer's gonna find it's a city issue. My septic goes, now my personal property at that location is gonna go up to about $80,000 to $90,000 in damage. If we don't have money to fund these guys now, then what I would do, get a trench right there, start trenching that road. The damage that's downstream, that's in that, mine is 5 times worse. And it would take it off our house. And then everybody else, just shift over that lot.
I think you're actually good.
Poor guy that owns it, doesn't know that. There's no way you can do the drainage when they fix it. You know, the front door is like, so it's a dead lot. It's a dead lot.
So there is also going to be a continuation of the workshop after just a short, like 5-minute break. We'll get back started at about like 2:30 or 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah. So there's some other things to address on the
I'd be going home and see turn up things
Well, I don't know what that is, but I'll tell you,
There's some of them at my house. If you look from my house and you look right down the North Front Road, or North Front Road, if you look down, it goes like this, like this, like this.
It's gonna be a while. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
What I heard is,
okay?
and I take care of it.
Yeah, so I'll send you the link.
That's on the city. My only action I want is I don't see
No, not the one proposed.
The one thing is it's gonna put the water in the right place. The water's not in the right place. We didn't see any study with the water in the right place.
Is that you?
Why waste your money?
Y'all take care.
I will see you. anytime.
Because they're all kind of wide over there, so I can.
If you look at, yeah.
That drainage fills up. It's this one drain. I get mosquitoes. When that comes out, that I had a room because of mosquitoes. When we talk about the $80,000 extension payment to my property, it is that I can't live there anymore. The mosquitoes that keep going in there because of that drain. The big thing is none of those other houses down.
Just so we can put on the map. And it's everybody on the map.
Any water in it.
Because it's all days.
It's when Mother Nature turned it back. You know,
If it would just follow the natural flow.
what do you think's on here?
Okay, thank you.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably got 10 acres in my yard. What's gonna happen when I have to replace those trees? I've got 3 in the yard.
Thank you.
$1,000 a tree.
Just back up, we'll reserve, we'll go back in.
I
You
was
ready?
doing the same.
Cycle fence, you saw my house, it's a cycle fence.
Jim, are you ready?
Yes, sir. You know how I found out? All the washout, all the cobweb, supposed to be cement boundary. Now I know they're grounded in cement. That's how low it is. And that's where my septic tank is at. You can see the cracks in the ground by the septic. I think it's septic. Oh, that is there. I've talked to a couple people and
Hey, we're happy you're here.
People and they said,
Yeah,
yeah,
me too,
septic's
thank
just sitting
Oh, there you
there.
go.
If they want that much water to go down to that little water table, it could cause it to be.
Rick, hold it, it's wet.
That's what it is. So I don't want to read that thing. Who's making a white shirt? My shirt. That's where there's gotta be, you know.
Okay, we're gonna finish up the meeting here with, we're just gonna talk about the budget.
Yes, thank you, sir. Mayor, council, we got, a couple things we provided to you the last workshop. And so I'd like to follow up on that. And one of them is the draft tiered rate proposal that also includes a water rate proposal for multifamily residential complex. This is, keeping in mind our goals, dealing with some of the capital improvement projects, specifically the water issues that we're trying to address. In addition to a water study with the water lines, a lot of your water lines, I've heard of stories like there's 3 water lines, now they're not all active, but instead of, I think I've heard there's 3 water lines in one particular area of town or one road.
Yeah, in some areas, there's 3 active.
Oh, active, okay, I misunderstood. Long story short, we also got roads that were built in the past where there's no water line there. And I think the reason for it, from my understanding, they probably didn't have the money to do it. The problem is, present dollar is gonna be a lot cheaper than future dollars. And what happened was, is you got a major road with development that occurred, the property owners are wanting to develop, and they're not gonna develop it because they can't develop because they don't have the water there, the water lines. And the surrounding area water has already been committed to reduce their water pressure too low, from my understanding. So, I'm talking about North Point Road specifically.
Yeah, there's no water on North Point Road, and so property owners are wanting to build.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that hold up development, which is what you're dependent upon in part for your revenue to address the needs of the community. So this is a tiered plan, and the base rate is what we talked about the last time. This base rate here, let me change my terminology. It's a fee. It's a base fee. A rate is more of what you see from left to right on your chart there. It does base, the price is what was recommended by the water department, by Jesse himself. We capped it at 40,000 gallons plus. It could go, this rate can go as high as you want, or modified, lower, however you want to do it. But this is what was proposed, and I didn't think it was my place to change it. He's the guy that works in the water department and oversees this effort. So I did look at gallons though, and gallons can make a difference from 0 to 3,000 on the base 510 to 0 to 4, 0 to 5. 510, we kept what they're paying today, but what is different also in this current proposal is it does away with the 1,000 gallons free. I've talked to several people, you all give a lot of things away for free here that a lot of communities don't do. I lived in Killeen, of course, that's Killeen. You all can choose to do what you want, but that 1,000 gallons is costing us, to a point where I'm not sure you can sustain it and still meet some of your goals unless you want to adjust something along the tiers. Just keep remember that if you kept this 510 and say, well, we're just gonna raise that 510 to say 550, I'm just using that example. And it's based off everybody getting that first 1,000 gallons for free and still hold at that base fee at $45. That's gonna affect both the low income as well as the high income, but it's gonna have a greater impact on the lower income. And by that, I'm saying that you're getting a discount on the higher usage of the water that the lower people are not taking advantage of because they don't have the capacity to do it. So just keep that in mind. This does.
Well, let me give you a little background if I could.
Can I finish this thought before I forget it?
Oh, sure, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
This,
I think it'll help the conversation, yeah.
this rate increase is to dissuade rate payers from using more water. It's designed that way on purpose because, for example, if you're pumping through 100,000 gallons, just for example, and have we had any over 100,000 or are they pretty much, have we had any over 100,000 gallons
In the past?
a month?
Yes.
Okay, so 100,000 gallons, to put it in perspective, you have a ground storage tank on Morgan's Point Road that sits on the ground, it's 150,000 gallons. So at 100,000 gallons, they've used 2/3 of that in 1 month for one person. So you can see, but take that aside and say, okay, well, that's bad. Well, it's not only that, the equipment has to run and wears out faster because the pumps have to work harder. When that pump goes out, you have to, how many pumps you got, 2?
2 online currently, yeah.
Okay, if one of them goes out, you have to make sure the other one doesn't go out. If they both go out, now you're on boil water notices. Who knows how long it's gonna take to get the equipment to fix those pumps. So these are things you gotta factor in on these higher usage, customers. It's not that they can't use the water, we have the capacity to do it. But if there's no disincentive to use so much, then when it goes down, it affects the whole city as a whole. And I think you had an experience in that not too long ago where one of the pumps did go down.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody remembers last summer, we lost the use of one pump. The second pump was closed. We were having to run it hard. Like Dennis said, if we lost that second pump, waiting on 8 to 12 week delivery on parts, we'd have been under citywide boil notice, state's filed, drought contingency, which caps everybody, no outdoor use. Your total consumption each month is based on a 4-person household, and if you go over it, there's penalties to pay.
So this is going to, not that it stops people from using more, they can still hit that 100,000 mark if they want. But that just gives you an idea that there's a there's a disincentive to continue to use it at the higher rates. But if you do, at least if something like this comes up, we've got the resources to do what we need to do. But also, more importantly, strategically, you need to look forward to what you're trying to do as a community, in this case, the water wells. And you have to have funding for that, in addition to the day in, day out, running the organization, the staffing, and what have you. So this is designed that way. There's different options. You can come up with your own option. You don't have to use gallons. You can use the price. You can use a combination of 2. You can change the base fee. It is council's decision. I just had to come up with an approach, but I want to use Jesse's recommendation as proposed, because he's in the business. I'm not. He's the one that did the research. I didn't. So I think this is what I've got, and then the meters underneath it for the multi-residential complex is because right now they don't pay anything individually, do they? The base rate is $35 for the multifamily.
Correct. Currently, they pay the same $45 base rate for a 50 household condominium complex as you pay for your one household. Break down the condominiums, each resident's paying 90 cents a piece. versus you're paying 45. And it's typically a multifamily household amongst a bunch of cities, they're about $10, $12 lower. That's why I suggested 35 per unit on multifamily. And multifamily would be 3 or more units.
But that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more information we could provide, but I think, Dorothy wants to go ahead and, talk about something. So let's do that. If you can move up just a little bit, I got a hearing problem a little bit, so I speak loud, but sometimes, that's the case. So that, and I also want to make sure she can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to let you know that I was involved in the 2019 rate increase pretty intimately with an outside consultant. And just for a little background, we moved from $30 base fee to $45. And because, again, rates hadn't been changed for like 5 or 7 years. And so we said at that time, we felt like we had to give people something. And I did an extensive analysis with Catrice as to how much water was being used by tier. And we were able to say that it didn't cost as much for us to give 1,000 gallons. So that was thoroughly kind of analyzed. But at the time, we also said, we're gonna have annual rate increases. Which we didn't have. Right, and then a bit on the base rate. I did several sensitivity analysis on base rate versus tiered, and we decided not to do tier, although I'm a proponent of it. But the base fee, if you go ahead and increase the base fee across the board, so the 2,000 residents each pay, let's say we take it to 50, and that would be only $5 increase over 5 years, which is less than, like 11% or whatever, but 2% per annum. It's just basically increasing it $1 a year gets us 2 things. It's about $120,000. And then it's across the board. So everybody's paying for infrastructure. Nobody is not getting a rate increase. So I'm looking more toward maybe increasing the base fee across the board. And I've run some numbers on that, but I don't have the detail that I had in 19. And then I also think we ought to look at the upper level of 40,000 to maybe give a few more increments. I know with my sprinkler system, let's see, I did August of last year, and my rate last year would have been $422. By going with this structure exactly option A, it would be $567, which is increasing me 34%. And then I did one on 30,000, which was still an increase of about 30%. So I agree with doing the high end. I think we ought to bump it up a little bit higher.
How many
I don't know
gallons
if it
did
goes
you
to
use? Dorothy, how many
Pardon?
gallons did you use last August? Do you
Oh, I
know?
sent it to Dennis.
Okay, I was just curious.
Actually, I sent it to you too. Let me look.
I did.
I had 75.5,
75,
but then I did the 30,000 gallon too. So it was $192 under option A. It's going to 252 or 30% higher. What puts people over the limit is either they're sharing water illegally or they've got some type of irrigation system. The other thing I wanna be sensitive to is not having so many tiers. So if we could somehow get to 75 or 80,000 gallons, but I'll keep the same number of tiers, then it would be kind of less complicated. So I'm looking at a base fee increase across the board. And then a higher, gallon tier structure.
The one
But
thing,
I don't know that we go above $7.50.
the one thing.
$7.50.
Okay, one thing that this is, we took that, for example, we used 2023, the city of Morgan's Point residents consumed about 205,000, or 205 million gallons. Okay, so with that, if you divide that by the number of meters, divide that by the number of months, you're looking at an average of 8,500 gallons per customer. That's the number we came up with based on the usage from 2020, 23.
Yeah, averages are really hard.
Well, no, I understand
because
that.
they don't give you the,
Right, I understand that,
Swings.
but if you use that average, the current rate is gonna be 8,500 gallons, is 83.25. Now, this does not include the high volume users. This is the average, and I think we took that number and came pretty close to the water that we actually purchased, is 199 million gallons, so it's not too far off on the average if you use that. So 83 being the current, 83.25 for this sample, it increases it $6, option C is 89. So you can see there that, and then the next one goes up to 89.05 and 89.35 and 89.95. But there is $5, the $5, either way you look at it, if you built that in, most of that is from 83 to 89, is that $5. Now, it's, whether you lose 1,000 or whether you add the base and just increase the base to, increase it by $5.
Yeah, it's a mute point.
It's not gonna make that much difference, but the tiered rate allows for the higher end users to realize that you're gonna pay more because they didn't wear the equipment out faster than you would otherwise. Give me an idea of your pump usage as far as the high end users, some of the things you were telling me today.
I'm sorry.
Well, like you said the pumps that you were filling up the tanks, trying to fill them up, and I guess they were using them faster than you could fill it.
And, during the winter months, January, February, March, we'll run about 350 to 400,000 gallons each day supplying the city. Summer months, we're running around 1 million a day. It's irrigation, pools, whatever, outdoors.
Yep.
Right now, to avoid last year's problems with our pumps, we're running them at 85% capacity. And we're not gonna go above it, we're gonna protect those pumps first. When those pumps come on to refill the tower in the morning, the tower is still on the decline. It still loses about another 12 to 14 foot before, after.
well, we can use
So it takes till after
drought,
lunchtime to start coming back up. Our
there are
current,
some cities that have already put themselves into drought, restrictions because of water availability. And if we need to go into a stage 1 or stage 2, I think we need to consider that also.
Well, you have the water's available, you have the acre feet, you've got a contract up to almost 2,000 acre feet. That's probably 600 million gallons a year if you had to. So it's not a matter of water, it's the matter of the equipment's running out.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Well, but I don't think that's a drought-related issue, this is more to do with, it's just the amount of water being pumped, the wear and tear on the equipment is causing that.
Right.
Also, don't forget, we're also supposed to be pushing towards conservation, I think that's the Texas Water Development Board.
yeah, they encourage it. That's where the tiered pricing system comes from.
Yeah, and it also allows,
Absolutely.
also allows, by using a tiered system like we're talking about here, it also allows when you do things like Just say you issued revenue bonds, and you say you kept the rate around 5, 10, I'm just saying that, just keep it there, maybe move it to 5.50. Well, when you issue revenue bonds, they're gonna want some assurances that you're gonna raise the rate to pay these things back. And I can tell you, I've seen it firsthand where a city did not do what they said they were gonna do, and they got downgraded in their debt, in their credit rating, and it cost them more going forward because they didn't fulfill their obligation to raise the rates. But let's say you had just one rate or two rates or something like that, and that they wanted those rates to increase, based off of that debt they're issuing you, that you're issuing, asking for. So the credit rating is gonna be X. When they raise those rates, those gonna hit those lower income, lower users of water much greater than they are the other ones, on the other side of the spectrum. So I think keep that in mind, and that's why the tiered rate system is not a bad approach when you're issuing revenue bonds.
I love it.
And things along this line.
No, I think it makes perfect sense, and it's what we need to do.
So,
And progressively, making each level,
So I just took this, cause I was thinking about the lower income people, we have a lot of them in Morgan's Point. And to be totally sensitive, I just took the first, option A and option C and calculated how much their water rates would be. And, then I called my daughter who lives in Clyde, Texas, little town, and, I asked her how many, they're a family of 5, so I thought that would just give me a rough idea versus me and Dave who are very water conservative, so they used, 7,200 gallons last month, and for the water alone, they paid $124. And the sewer was 66 above that. So I took that 7,000 that she paid last month and I went to Plan A and Plan C, and the max that she would pay on that would be about 85 with this proposed rate. So I thought this seems pretty reasonable to me. And to me, if we up the base rate or just drop the $1,000 free, it ends up being about the same. And so I would, I don't have any problem with dropping that $1,000 fee. But after looking at what they were paying in Clyde, in this little tiny poor town, and we're still way below that.
Yes.
So
and Catrice lives in Parker Heights. And she shared her rates with us back in 19, and they were significantly higher.
Yeah, there was a tendency from me, and that's why I used Jesse's proposal on the rates, because I feel that for what you've got before you with capital outlay with projects and stuff, you're looking at significant challenges. So this is not the first draft. The first one that I come up with was much higher to get us there on time, on target. But the reality of it is, you can always start something along this line, give it a year, reassess it, and say, okay, is it working? Is it doing the things we expected to do? And look at it next year. You should be looking at rates anyway, year to year.
Absolutely.
But
do we ever want to not have a rate increase?
Well, given what you have for CIP, I think you have no choice but to do it unless you're gonna not do those things.
Well, that's the problem that we continue to run into, and where we heard that before. It hasn't been raised in 10 years, and I got it. That's, that's what people love, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at the economy, inflation, the price of pumps and generators and just gear,
Well, I'll be able to get a raise the rate, let's raise it to the maximum right here. It's not that big a difference, the revenue between 181,000 and 202.
Yeah.
If you're gonna bite the bullet, let's bite the bullet, because like I said, we haven't raised the rate in such a long time.
Right, I took my water bill and I found that the waste management and taxes on there was about $20 in addition to that. So if you use 15,000 gallons at option A, it would be 135 plus 20 more, 155 with the waste management. If you went to option C, it'd be 127. So it's not that much difference for the resident, but yet for us, it could really
Make a big difference,
what we need
If
to
we're
do.
gonna bite the bullet, let's make it worthwhile to bite it, because it's not that big a difference,
Rip the Band-Aid off.
And it starts you down a path that gives you options that you didn't take off the table, look at it next year. If you find it's not working, you can tweak it down, tweak it up. I mean, your all's call, all this is. But I'm not a fan of fees, because it's another way of taxation from my perspective.
It is.
But, and I'm sure everybody, probably has, opinion on it as well, but, you know, you can't get where you all need to go if you're dependent on others right now for your water needs, and you've got all this water lines, they're at different levels. We're talking about drainage. I'm finding out that when we start dealing with drainage, we gotta deal with the height of those water lines. We don't know where they're at. They could be higher, lower. There's no water improvement plan. So there's been no study done. So we gotta get that funded in order so we know where things at. The valves, we had to shut off the whole city, for goodness sake, because we had a water leak and they couldn't find the valve and there wasn't one for it. So we need to put valves throughout the, yes, we need to put valves throughout the city, but we don't have a water study to see where they're at. There's a lot of things that's not done here because it was hodgepodge throughout the years, no disrespect, but it doesn't really matter how we got where we are. We know what we need to do moving forward, and that's where our focus should be, and I think that's where you all are, but.
Yeah, in my, kind of opinion, I would tend to lean toward option 8 if I was writing the budget.
I think that'd be a smart one, too.
How about you, Jim?
Yeah, you wanna do it incrementally, but you're absolutely correct. Nobody wants to get their water rate jacked up.
Yeah.
Particularly with the way things are going. So you gotta do something.
Yeah, I think
So
that
leaving
if
it
we
to
don't,
balance, is it better to do a
we
little
don't jack
bit
the
or
rates up,
just rip it up?
and we eventually we're gonna have equipment
Were you gonna say
break down, and I'm not gonna have anybody to pay for it, so.
Yeah.
We've gotta take all that into consideration, I mean, I
Yeah.
But
understand.
Dennis, I think your point on where the water lines and all that, and I don't mean, but I think that's a bigger problem than the roads in one respect, because just like the thing over on Canyon. I mean, that was I think you guys had a good idea of what was going on, but I'm listening to you and the other times, there's a bunch of lines out there that you guys have no clue until they break.
Right.
That's not safe to read.
You know where most of them are,
But-
but they just never properly installed
Yeah.
the isolation valve so that we can narrow down.
But I would say this, because the roads are very important here, I think what you ought to do, like a lot of cities do, is they don't think one or two dimensions, they actually look overall, and they may not push as fast in every water, sewer, drainage, roads, stormwater, they may not push as fast, but they're always pushing forward. So you're never where you were, and some are going faster, because roads usually it's the big grill in the room, you're gonna deal with that first, because it's one of the big ticket items. And we are looking at, I think you're gonna make some good progress this next fiscal year, but you can't ignore these other things, because when you do a road, you gotta look at drainage, you gotta look at water. If you have sewer, you should be looking at sewer. Those are things that if you don't do it then, you're just passing it for someone else, and that dollar today is gonna be a lot cheaper to do that project than it will be a future dollar later on.
Yeah, and you don't want to fix the road and then come back and tear it up, and fix the water line.
So I guess we tell Dennis that we tell with option 8 to pursue that on the deal, that's pretty much it.
Is that okay with you, Dorothy?
Maybe.
No?
Can we, make some, higher level, tiers, maybe going to 75 or 80?
You want what number above that? Like 750 is the last one, you wanna go like $8?
Yes, 750, no, I would keep 750. I would take the gallons up to 70 or 80, keep the same number of tiers. So maybe that's 10,000 gallons, or maybe that's 15,000 gallons between each one. If somebody could run a number on that, cause I'm blind.
Yeah, I
have any.
don't think that's gonna generate the revenue. The more gallons you have, the less revenue you're gonna come up with.
Yes, but you're telling me the average is 85. So you're telling me the average is 550.
Right, but the higher use are the ones that's taxing the system, from what I was told.
Correct.
So if you spread that,
Right.
you're not gonna generate enough revenue for one, so you're trying to the goal is to have, yes, you're trying to generate, you're trying to slow down the maximum use of some of the bigger users, but you're also trying to raise revenue for your future water infrastructure, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I think if you expand it from, like, for example, on A, from 0 to 3 to 0 to 15 or something, you didn't accomplish much, other than the fact that you'll get a few of them out here on the outliers, but the
Oh,
majority.
no, it wouldn't be 15. you know,
Or even
okay,
10.
leave it the way it is. I just don't have the ability to run the numbers.
Okay.
You almost have to run
Well, so-
scenarios.
Well, I think we can start with
If
the.
you look at
So-
option C, is
Yeah.
that what you, Dorothy, if you look at option C, is that more what you're thinking?
Okay, and then $7 is 40, so 45 would be 725. And then maybe we can get up to 50 or 55. But under option A. Just the 5,000 tiers. Or maybe they're the same, I can't tell.
Well, if you do the 5,000 gallons, then that's gonna be, we can add a couple of tiers to it if you wanted to.
But if you look at option A, if you're looking at $7, you're looking at 24,000 gallons on option A, you're looking at 40,000 gallons on option C. I mean,
For $7, yeah.
for $7, I think, you know, you're giving them an extra 16,000 gallons for the same amount of money.
Okay.
I think you gotta pay for it.
Yeah, again, I'm blind, I can't run the numbers. So I'm fine with option A if everybody agrees to that.
So what we'll do is we'll propose, we'll bring it back on the 13th for a budget amendment, but we'll also include it in our proposed budget. So everything was just,
Dennis, so that'll be the one other thing y'all need to decide, when would this be effective? So is it effective October one?
October 1st, I think, yeah.
Or that will be based on, Catrice, July, August billing, or, consumption? So you might be high-end utilizers that are getting that billing sooner, so that is something else to consider, since, at least with
Because
Marina.
we're 2 months behind.
Correct.
so if they get billed 1 October, they won't see the bill until.
But that's where the tricky part with, if Neil was here, we could ask him for his guidance, because is it October consumption, so then they don't see the billing until, November, December time period, and do y'all want that around the holidays? Yeah, no, that's where I was wondering,
Okay.
could you say just effective with the, billing effective January 1, or whatever is gonna make y'all comfortable with what people's situation and fact patterns are?
There's nothing wrong with saying it's gonna be effective November, December, billing I'm not sure billing's the way to go. I'd say consumption, because that's really the expenditure from us has already occurred in December. So I'd say based off usage, I would say just make it either November or December, or they won't see it until February.
Your
But it's
water
also,
usage is gonna be less.
it's gonna be less during those months anyway, so.
Lessen the damage
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
individual.
Give them time to adjust
It won't
to
hit
it.
till May.
Yeah.
Give them time to adjust to it before.
And I apologize for being so late. Well, I guess you guys are affected. What is most of the consumption? You said it was like 7 to 9?
82.
8,500.
That's an average.
That's an average,
Okay,
some
that's between
go
7 and
higher,
9.
some go lower.
Yeah,
Real
okay.
tiny print on there.
Little tiny one, okay, so most of the people are gonna be down at the left end of the tier,
Okay.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I think
The most of the people
are on the left side of it.
on the left side, so the people on the right side,
Are gonna have to pay more.
yeah, but that's also,
But they're higher users, so they.
Designed to that, yeah.
yeah, I
So-
think that makes more sense,
Can I-
particularly if most of the people are on the
Yeah,
left.
is there an idea, we can go November 1, we can go, December 1,
Patrice, can you give us your input?
Are you basing it on usage
it
or
should be.
billing?
I would base it on usage personally, because that's when the transaction occurred. It's not on when the city sends you something in the mail. So I would recommend.
Okay, so October 1 usage.
Or some other day,
I would do usage too.
usage on what month?
October 1.
Okay.
October
October
1
1, okay.
usage, okay.
Okay.
So if we're 2 months behind on the water bill, it won't show up
So this-
until December, but then that's October is a low water consumption
Right,
month
right,
anyhow.
right.
Okay,
It's still gonna hurt, but not that much.
yeah.
Because
You probably won't
Right,
notice it,
right.
probably won't for a few months.
Just don't give out my address.
And then we do
Okay.
have a water calculation, on the website. So you can go on and you can put in your usage and it calculates your bill. I suggest maybe Susanna gets that up and running with the new rates so people can start playing with it
Most definitely,
and seeing, okay.
yes.
I didn't even know we have that. Do we know what that's through? Do you know anything about that?
It's been years since I looked at
Where
it.
you go to pay your water bill?
It's on there somewhere.
We'll
No,
follow,
it's on the website,
yeah, we'll,
under I want to, I think.
we'll follow up and make
I
sure.
feel
it's-
like my water bill, okay.
We'll definitely do that. And we'll also put the notices out, once it's, once the ordinance is passed, we'll go ahead and do the same thing. If we do it in August, that gives them 2 months ahead of notice, and we'll do a public notice, we'll do, everybody in their water bill be noticed, notified, and things of this nature. Okay, so, yes, sir.
I would like to comment on the additional $5 on the base rate. If we go up $5, it's across the board. If we eliminate the 1,000 gallons free, it's still $5 across the board. The benefit to eliminating the 1,000 gallons, it was 10, 12 years ago, I forget exactly when, it was proposed on multifamily units to bill a base rate per unit. Their argument was, if each unit gets 1,000 gallons free, now they get 50,000 gallons free for a multifamily condominium contract.
Thought about that.
Right,
So
right.
it's the same difference either way, the $5, but eliminating that 1,000 gallons free eliminates that argument.
Makes a big difference.
I think the mayor wants to be involved, but I would say also in that rate reduction also takes consideration, they won't be individually watering outside, I think is what you told me.
Correct,
Right,
yeah,
so that's why it's a little bit lower.
That's why, yeah,
Okay.
multifamily would be
Wanna
less.
move to the next one? Okay. All right, so the last thing I got, Mayor Council, thank you for the direction. The last thing I have here is the capital improvement projects. It's broken up by year. You've got a new one, that's why they're drafts, because we've got more information, and I found out there's other things we need to include. So you've got, for this next fiscal year, a lot of this will be funded in the next fiscal year. To what extent, I don't have that for you tonight, but the water well study, we know is gonna come in under 30. If we can get it done this fiscal year, we will. But if not, it will definitely be programmed in here, and there's an increase over what we think it will be, but that will compensate for that. The sewer lift station, that's there, nothing changed. City Hall parking lot and ground improvements. I've had citizens and I had council members both saying that what we have designed is not working. Well, it's an eyesore, I'm gonna be honest with you. Plus, we had this damage from the storm. And I think, for the parking lot and the grounds, for $7,500, using in-house staff and equipment, we can get it looking pretty decent, and we'll move that box that citizens and council don't like, we'll move that to a location. We'll probably make it one way in, one way out. Long story short is, it will be resurfaced at a point to where it will look better, restriped, and it will have some landscaping around it, and we'll spruce it up. But I think that's a good thing, and we are the city government, so that's important.
Now, EDC had money,
Yes,
and they were using master gardeners.
Yeah, very good, because I exactly, one of the sources, I figured if I'm gonna run short, if I need to do a force multiplier, you're exactly right. That's exactly.
They've already set it aside.
Oh, okay.
And Linda has a plan,
For
so you
City
might
Hall?
wanna look at her plan.
Okay, for City Hall?
I'm sorry, I thought you said the event center.
No. Well, I'm still looking into City
Oh,
Hall.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. The event center was already on there, so yeah, we'll be doing that, but I wanna go down to ones that wasn't on the last list. Event center,
Oh,
audio
I'm
visual.
sorry, City Hall, okay, I don't have that on my list.
Okay, no,
She get this.
that's my fault. I'll send you this after the meeting. That's my fault. I apologize.
Okay, you know.
Event center, audio, visual improvements, council meetings are not going smoothly with what we have. We've gotta do something for it. So I wanna set some, I wanna get that addressed. Utilities plant generator, we talked about that. Let's see, I'm going back to ones were not mentioned. Library improvements. I'm waiting for a quote on, some things.
Shelves, yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, and then, they also need some equipment, so, but the big thing is the shelves, that's the improvement of the building that will be there beyond the 12 months, so we'll do that. Famous Park's got some serious issues, and I don't know what, I mean, not serious, well, they're not, the tennis court's not really usable, the basketball court's, is not striped, and that's one of the easy fixes, and we can put some chains up, so there's the funding will become in the recommendation, it won't be very much, but it will allow us to get it restriped and get the new chains up for the basketball court so it can be used. And we'll also fix the sandbox, whatever that's for, volleyball. So they'll be able to use different features, but we won't get any major improvements done, but that will at least start, again, moving everything forward and start making things better in the community.
Facilities condition assessment, it's only 2,000, but that's only if we have to do estimates. Most of that's gonna be done in-house, but I will have experts come in and give us assessment for foundation, electrical, things like that. We need to know, just like a vehicle replacement program, you need to know what you're doing by facility and what you're gonna be doing for the next fiscal year and forward. And we'll take the worst problems, sooner than later. Infrastructure, city facilities, security improvements, if you go down to that one, that is, there's all kinds of stuff, but we need to do some cameras, and we're still working through the issues, but we need to do, at least get some monitoring service or cameras where we can watch the event center better. There's no reason for it, but that's a third TV, I've been here 90 days, they said we just got one in today, and that will be, we're not putting it in the building yet till we get security, so. But, yeah, I don't wanna repeat the same
Can I ask
thing.
a question?
Yes, ma'am,
The sewer lift station engineering,
yes.
we haven't changed sewer fees in, I don't know how long.
Right.
Should we consider that if we're gonna put $170,000 in that system?
There's a lot of things, and that's one of them, but there's a lot of things fee related that I did not bring that I would normally do, but because there's nothing been done in the past, so I don't wanna overwhelm the system. Some of the bigger ones, like drainage, water, things like that, but you're certainly right. Drainage needs to be sewage needs to be looked at, but I think a comprehensive look at it might be in order, because some of these areas in the city, I think the condos we're starting to have some challenges moving forward if we don't do something. So I'm not really prepared to give you anything, but also, we've got so many things we're looking at new this year, I just don't know where the stopping point is, so it's on me that I didn't bring it, but I don't think we're ready to bring it, because I don't have it studied yet. Okay, but I agree with you, I agree with you. Infrastructure security improvements, that is, you have to look at your water system, there's no way to monitor it, there's no way to, you don't wanna put yourself in a place you're not able to stop hackers from trying to do it, they're doing it for small and large, and whoever's vulnerable, right now we're vulnerable, so I wanna look, not as vulnerable as some, but we can do better, is what my point is. Anyway, so that's the kind of stuff you'll see there, and those are the addicts, and there's a lot of TBDs, because we don't have all the information, I got stuff coming in at different times. Whatever's there will be there for the budget proposal, and then, but the fiscal year 25, a lot of that will be funded in this next budget year. To what extent, I don't know, and it's ultimately what you all wanna do. You may say later on, we don't want that generator for public safety, we want one for City Hall, just use an example. Well, that's something you can move around, that wasn't what I was recommending, I just said.
Well, they're fighting for
What I'm saying is,
We'll go home, y'all can stay here.
That's your all's call. I just wanna propose what we're trying to get accomplished. What doesn't get accomplished in 25 will automatically slide to 26. But remember, you all will do what's called a strategic planning session with me, and we will go over, well, not only this, but we'll go over what we're planning on doing, what's new that we didn't cover, and make sure the priorities of council are still aligned with, this is still the priorities aligned with your wishes. And that's really all I have to get. I just wanted to, Dorothy, I apologize, this was done at like the last minute during the day, about 3:15, and I didn't email it, so I'll get that to you ASAP.
Council, we appreciate y'all being here, everybody, I think we got a lot covered tonight, particularly with the drainage deal. We got a lot of input on that,
definitely.
so.
And
thank
I
y'all
think
for-
it was really appreciated by the residents.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, we'll,
Like it.
I guess our next meeting will be
I'll
13th.
just make a comment. JoJo came up to me afterwards and she said, I know there was a whole lot of people here from one HOA, but we've had the drainage issues at my house for 20 years. And she said it's still an issue, so don't forget about me.
I talked to dozens of people that's not that HOA throughout the city. I just don't know all the names and locations, but believe me, it's not any one area, it's all over. And it's just, and you got new development coming around from cities, other cities that affect you. It's the lake's here, it's coming through us, so let's get it kind of organized and better.
It's going to the lake.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep in mind, evidently the HOAs are not doing anything either, so.
You don't even look like you're
The people
sweating.
at HOAs not making you any stronger. They're not doing anything evidently not doing anything for them anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And I just wanna say one last thing. Dorothy said she volunteered, and we've got a Teams meeting, is what you're using, right?
Yes,
And
with
so.
Susanna.
That's-
Susanna got me
Yeah,
going.
you all did really good, and I really appreciate it, because the better you all of you know what's going on and make the decisions, the better support the community gets, and it's better clarity for us to know what to do. So I really appreciate it, and Dorothy, you're a stormtrooper,
I
I
really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
No, we appreciate it too.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dorothy, you don't even look like you're sweating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And I
much.
do apologize.
No, we knew that, but you've got all the stuff that we talked about there, the presentation, and to include that.
I really appreciate being the council of Pastor Jack
I told everybody.
Awesome.
We had to reschedule.
Okay, that was not,
Oh,
that was not.
But that's my fear, I don't wanna see